The CGA Tour, a podcast unlike any other. Now your host, Calvin Alexander.
Welcome back to the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. As always, here I'm your host, Calvin Glen Alexander, and on tonight's episode of the podcast, last one in person, at least for a while. Yes. Because we've got a couple events going on in each of our lives. I'm going to San Diego to get married and then go on the honeymoon, and Alexi's unfortunately moving out of the state of Oklahoma back home to St. Louis, where you can follow much more of the Oklahoma State fandom just for a little bit farther away. Yeah, just a little bit farther, not forever. But anyways, want to have Alexi on here, talk about kind of, off-season topics. I'm not trying to say we're running dry here, but I'm also trying to say we always want to give content to the viewers, listeners, all that stuff here. So one of the things I'm always thinking about is Oklahoma State currently like a happy fandom experience? Like, am I currently a really happy Big 12 baseball fan? And this is recorded before Oklahoma State's regional play against Duke and the Duke regional, the Georgia regional, excuse me. So recording this on the Thursday before this comes out, a week in advance here, because this is much more of like where do you want Oklahoma State to be in 5 years? Sure. But I would say baseball going into the season, you go, well, we're preseason picked to win the whole thing. Sure. Big 12 wise, I would hope we could host a regional. But then no, one Big 12 team is hosting a regional. So yeah, I'm really that upset. And I'd really, if we're not hosting a regional and no Big 12 teams are, I hope we could be a second team, but we're a third. So we're like, are we upset? Are we happy? Football last year, we're insanely upset. Like everyone is. Board of Regents almost kicked Gundy out of the whole entire, basically college football. I don't know if Gundy would have found another job immediately or not. Basketball wise, seems like the stadium was less full than it's been in a little bit. But I don't think that was necessarily a coach or OSU, or that just kind of seems circumstantial at this point. I still hold on to the take that if Cade Cunningham had been playing no matter what at Oklahoma State without any NCAA sanctions hanging overhead, that things would have gone better. Stay tuned for that hot take coming out a little bit later on this month. That was my hot take for the Hot Take podcast, June 19th. But I want to ask you here, like, as an Oklahoma State fan, are you currently happy? You've been an Oklahoma State fan less amount of time than I have, but of course you've also seen teams that you root for example, the Cardinals, win a World Series. You've had high expectations for other programs. I'm kind of in that San Diego Padres, Los Angeles Chargers, Oklahoma State Thunder, and of course Oklahoma State Athletics kind of fandom where I don't necessarily see a bunch of teams that I root for win all the time or really be super competitive like the Cardinals are. It seems like if the Cardinals are competing for World Series every 5 years, something's horribly wrong. Sure. Right. So anyways, long-winded intro here. What do you think?
I believe Oklahoma State Athletics has been fine, but I feel like we haven't elevated to where we need to be. And a lot of that, I have to say, is the two main sports. What do most people watch in the college world? It's football, number one. And then I have to say number two is college basketball. It's just a big thing in what people like. And you have to go with where the entertainment is, where the ratings are. And that's football and basketball. Oklahoma State should be, I've said this in multiple podcasts, Oklahoma State should be the top dog of the Big 12. So no, I'm not happy where the football program is. Yes, I like the consistency overall. The few years we've had, 8, 9 wins, you're going to get that. You're going to be happy with that, but we need to elevate higher. We need to be a team who is consistently winning the Big 12. We need to be, the new OU of the Big 12. OU ran through the Big 12 almost every year, winning multiple championships. That's what Oklahoma State needs to be. There should be no excuse that we are never, for the most part, never not in the Big 12 championship game for football. And I'm going to say the same thing for basketball. There's just too much tradition for college basketball in Stillwater. Gallagher-Iber Arena, when that place is full, there's not many places better to watch a college basketball game. And so we need to get back to that. Oklahoma State Athletics, like I said, it hasn't been the worst thing. I know there's other sports out there. There's baseball, there's wrestling. We all know about those programs. We know about the women's side, the softball side. But we need to get back to being the top dog of this conference. We can do it. We have the resources. We have the money. We just got to put it to it and get the talent and get back on top, because that's what Oklahoma State can do and should do.
I agree, but I want to hold you to something more like, hey, we could 10 wins a season should be the bare minimum, I would think. Granted, you can have a down year every so often where you have 6 to 8 wins is a down year, but
Sure.
not 0 wins in conference. I mean, that's and I got him going like 6 wins in conference. You know, I mean, 9 wins in conference is winning the whole conference, but the regular season wise at least. But what do you think as far as like, hey, we in the next 5 years, we're going to do this with every sport here. Next 5 years, football wise, how many times should we be at the Big 12 championship?
Well, I think it would be a little silly to say we're going to get back there this year. I think with how bad last year was, give it a year, maybe 2, to really regroup and get back on track. So in my opinion, if we can say, let's say we have an improvement this coming year, and then the next year we take another step forward, maybe it takes 2 years to get back on track. But I say out of those 5 years, at least twice. And I know it's not easy to win every year, but I'm saying with the tradition we have, with the resources, with the coaches that we have brought in, OSU should be in the Big 12 championship game for football at least twice in the next 5 years, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm assuming winning in one of those 2 times. The next 5 years, we're back to the Big 12 championship 2 years out of 5, including next year, though. We're including next year because it's a brand new freshman class, a quarterback, whole deal. I agree. I think that Oklahoma State should be back. I think that's probably about what I would say, though. I would say, like, hey, that doesn't seem unrealistic. That seems like a realistic, but it also puts a couple other things in gear. Gundy still is the head coach.
Sure.
The offense coordinator and defense coordinator hirings this past season work real well.
They have to hit. Exactly.
The quarterback transfer of Haas Haney is really highly anticipated by multiple people, but is it highly anticipated because it supposedly could be good, could be great? Guy was a 3 or 4 star, depending on where you're looking. He's not a 5-star coming in as a freshman. He had 1 year at TCU. Now he's got an offseason with Oklahoma State. Is that much? But also, no one's ever talking about the guys who win the Heisman coming out of nowhere before the year before. No one was talking about Cam Newton playing for the Auburn Tigers before he won the whole thing. No way, shape, or form am I comparing both, but I'm just saying, like, Cam Newton was never getting talked about more than Haas Hayden for sure, or Zane Flores. But all of what you're saying is that one of these 2 quarterbacks has to work out a little bit. Like, now, can we have some fluky thing where we have Alum Bowman in his 7th, not 8th, their 6th year, I guess, of college eligibility? You know, we have Ollie Gordon kind of break out. We have an offensive line that it's good enough. And also we go to Big 12 championship game. But also that same year, we like drop an Easter egg, goose egg at UCF. Yeah. We botch a BYU game basically as much as you can botch it. Like we missed the PAT to win it. Like we still somehow won.
Yep.
We're saying all this kind of works out. I do see with Gundy, he's being paid a certain salary. I've been on this little bit tangent if you listen to a bunch of my stuff lately, where Gundy's getting paid top 50 in the country. We are not like for example, I don't know what the other Big 12 school that I could come up with off the top of my head exactly is, but like we're not
Cincinnati.
We're not Cincinnati or West Virginia what they're paying their coaches.
No.
You know, we're not one of those like, I guess we're, Houston or whatever, at least paying the coach wise. We're definitely not there football wise. We're definitely way above that, but we have room on the offensive side to grow, on the defense side to grow a lot. Compared to last season, we have the whole world to improve. But what is that going to look like in 2 years? Yeah. Now, we just don't know at quarterback. So, but I do think you've got a fair thing as like, hey, listen, it should be this or this. But really, I would think, honestly, next 5 years, we should be heading down to Arlington in December 3 times. I mean, I would say 2 to 3 times, 2 being the kind of lower end. Because now you look at it, like Texas and OU won the Big 12 for basically ever. I mean, Oklahoma State won it in 2011. The next winners, the next year was split between K-State and OU. Then you've got Baylor wins it back-to-back years, but they share with TCU in 2014. Then you've got OU wins it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years in a row. Then Baylor, then K-State, then Texas, and then OU and Texas are out of the conference. Yep. And then, of course, Arizona State. Newcomer comes in last year, has Sam Leavitt, freshman quarterback. So I want to have some hope here with the freshman quarterbacks on the roster. I'm going to keep mentioning freshman quarterbacks that I know have done historically well because I'm not going to tell you about the guys who fail. No one wants to talk about that. That's not a lot of fun. Are we talking about the Dax Garmin years? No, probably not. So we're going to talk more about Haas and Zane than anything else. But I do think that's fair. as far as when it comes to basketball, both men's and women's wise, of course, this past year, made the NCAA tournament, went up to UConn and women's, didn't work out real well. You know, it could have gone a lot better, I'm sure. You know, we've got girls playing on the USA select team and Haley Steinfeld, and JC Hoyt seems to be getting plenty of recruits on the women's basketball side. I only see things going up from here, but I don't expect every single year to be like an elite March Madness run. I think we got screwed being a 7th seed, but I also don't know if last year was the greatest year we'll ever have, and we might have some transfers in. And it seems like we're getting some good transfers in, one from BYU this past season.
Yeah.
But in men's basketball, what do you think is a fair? Women's to cap off my way. I think women's like next 5 years making the tournament 4 out of 5 years.
Sure.
Have one fluky year. Big tournament 4 out of 5 years. We got to win a first round game, you know, a couple of those years as well is what I would say.
I mean, the way I've said this a lot on your podcast too, and just in general to people that I speak with, college basketball, you can change your program around in one season. The way the transfer portal is, I mean, we will have an entire new team next year. It's just the nature of the NIL and the transfer portal. You can flip a team around. This could be a good team next year. If it all goes well, if it all gels well together, if Lutz is as good of a coach as we think he is, they could be a tournament team next year. Like, it would not surprise me to see them make the tournament. Of course, a lot of things have to go well. You're playing in a really tough conference. But I am a little bit more optimistic about basketball if Lutz can just hit on these guys. And it's always a big what if and a lot of question marks around that because you don't know how these guys are going to pan out. But yeah, I still set my expectations that Lutz needs to get us back into the tournament as a consistent team. There is no excuse that Oklahoma State should not be making the tournament every year. There's just no excuse for it. We are too good of a program. We have too much history. There's no way Oklahoma State should not be in the tournament every single year, and I will not stop saying that. We should not allow Iowa State to continue making it every year and being as good of a program as they are. Texas Tech, if those schools can do it, Oklahoma State can do it, and we need to get back to that.
I mean, Texas Tech is just killing it in the football transfer portal. They have the second best class, or kind of, I mean, they have the first best class in the Big 12 by far. It's not close in like 247. In fact, if you just listen to the podcast, I just recorded currently today when we're recording this, but you know, May 30th. That's all that McLean Baxley had to say for 247 Sports. Like, Tech is really up there. OSU, middle of the pack at best, but all the rest of the Big 12 supposed to come together. And in basketball, I don't expect Texas Tech, who has a guy who's just sold his company for like multiple $1 billion. When they have a booster like that, they basically have a T-Boone in the NIL era. So I'd expect Tech to only do good things. But to add to your point, if I don't say Tech came out of nowhere, but like Tech was not the team every year that you were worried about. It was the team where we would go, cool, we got to go down to Lubbock. All right, down and back real quick. Hopefully pull that one out.
Yeah.
Because it's by itself, their fans are get after and excited, but also like we should be winning this. This was not a maybe we'll lose, maybe we'll win. This is like we should Tech most years. Now they've had some guys drafted. They had some good guys. They had Jarrett Culver not too long ago. I mean, they've had some guys, but Iowa State wise, they have Tyrese Halpern. I'm fully aware, but the other Iowa State guys are not just, oh man, they didn't have a Cade Cunningham. No one's had a Cade Cunningham in the Big 12. And the last going back to that is KU, really. And I mean, they had plenty together, but I agree. I think men's basketball is one of the hardest to do this with. Hardest to go 5 years out. Where are we? Like, where should we be? Because you're right. Year over year can change rapidly. And who's to say here that if Lutz gets back to the tournament, has a deep run this year, and his second year, I am the biggest OSU homer you'll ever know. But it's not beside me to go, Lutz wouldn't look around and go, hey, listen, they're calling me over to Auburn because Bruce Pearl's retiring.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like just something bizarre like that.
Yeah.
You know, gosh, I can picture his face for the UNC head coach. You know,
I know who you're talking about too.
Yeah. Yeah. Or a Mick Cronin at UCLA.
Starts with an H.
Yeah. But Hubert.
Yeah.
But or Mick Cronin is moving on. He's got fired from UCLA. And he just a historic blue blood program.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of money, a lot of like. When you're telling me Lutz wouldn't go keep moving up, he's moving up. Like he's moving up. I mean, NBA team call us, you're going to the league. Like, Fred Hoiberg kind of deal. So he went from Iowa State to the Bulls famously. So I could see a myriad of different things happening with Lutz because there is that uncertainty of like, what happens when he gets his guys in the door?
Sure.
I thought Arturo Dean played his butt off this year, was incredible, was one of Lutz's guys, but he was also 5'9". He just wasn't, he is the best high school player you and I would have ever seen.
Sure.
But it's 5'9" in Big 12 basketball, and you've got Houston there. I mean, the biggest point you made is that this is not the conference to make big predictions in Big 12. You just, man, with K-State, they were supposed to go real far. They didn't do anything in the, NCAA March Madness. Yeah. I mean, a Big 12 team went to the, national championship game. That's a pretty big deal, but there were, preseason-wise, you could convince me there's been 5 different teams who had a legit chance.
Absolutely.
KU being one of those that just didn't do anything in March Madness, but had a legit chance. But I do think basketball, 3 out of the next 5 years, make the tournament.
Yep. Have to.
Two of those 3 years, win a game or two. Because in my mind, we're not going to be the team that goes to tournament as a 12 seed. And if we do, then who knows? We're hopefully winning the playing game.
Yeah.
But in my mind, 3 out of 5 years does not mean that we're in the playing game. It means that 3 out of 5 years, we're maybe 8, 9 seed. Yeah. We're 7, 10. We're somewhere around the margins.
Absolutely.
Because that's only returning 2 guys on scholarship this season. 2.
Whole new team coming in, man.
That's weird. Robert Jennings is one of them. He was not like a mainstay starter last year. And the other one is the guy who has a very long name I can't pronounce and was rumored he was going back home for good. Now he's come back from Spain. So he saw like some minutes in the NIT tournament. I think that was it, if anything. So I'm cautiously optimistic on Oklahoma State basketball, but also I just know it's the hardest conference to predict overall.
It's tough.
Now spring sports, we're in springtime, they're front of mind. Softball this year, I'd say, was not the greatest year. We didn't get back to the College World Series, but Guyski was on one heck of an unprecedented run. He comes to campus, then all of a sudden they just are making the College World Series, getting to Oklahoma City every single year. So much fun, so great to have in our backyard. Winning the Big 12 championship over OU, even though OU won their 4th consecutive championship game, I believe, that same year. But when he beat OU in Oklahoma City, in Big 12 championship is just incredible. But what do you think realistic expectations are here for softball?
I mean, same thing. I think the way they've been the last few years is expectations stay high. It's like Oklahoma State's been one of the better teams in the Big 12 conference. I mean, the years we've seen this team in the college softball World Series and they've won some games, I think expectations got to stay high here. You got to continue building on to that program. Of course, OU is not in your conference anymore, and you know how much of a juggernaut Oklahoma is. You saw how they won today in the bottom of the 7th or wherever that
walk off against Tennessee. I cannot believe they hit a walk-off home run lifted up by the Angels. The heavens are around them.
It's insane.
Sooner Magic is so annoying to hear.
It's a real thing.
Man, that was true. Yeah.
It's a real thing. So, I mean, I think you just have to continue building onto your program. It's something that's easier said than done, but OSU has the resources. They have the type of playmakers that can elevate their program. They can continue to go out there and recruit and get better and better each year to make themselves a strong team and program in that conference of the Big 12. So, I think only gets higher from here. You just have to elevate those expectations. You can't ever settle and get comfortable because teams are always looking to do new things. Programs are always trying to look to get better. And that's what Oklahoma State needs to do. They need to continue on that trajectory to get better and better each year to be a strong program.
I would say next 5 years for college softball, absolute best expectations to make us a College World Series. Like 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5, 100%.
4 out of 5 seems more realistic. And that's a huge thing to ask of a program, a team, the stadium they play in where they're building out, decks outside, all this stuff. OSU softball is probably doing a new stadium at some point, but I think, if I'm guessing, some of that money is instead of being reallocated or redone or a little bit worried from some of the NCAA rulings coming down with, the house, all type of stuff too. So just a bunch of different stuff with that. And OSU to me is the perfect place for a softball team just to go nuts.
Oh yeah.
Like there's not a ton of competition in the softball world overall when it comes to national rankings, but you do get to play in the same state as OU, who is just the top dog.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just no getting around.
Another way
you always
to
get
it.
to play OU every
Yep.
year. I went to the OU Bedlam match this year, Oklahoma City. It was insane. It was a sold out crowd, biggest sellout crowd in ever in regular season non-conference
Wow.
game because they're now not in the same conference. So, couple of stipulations when I say that, but it was awesome. OSU was up 3-0 at one point. It was incredible. Myself and my wife were going nuts for OSU, but then OU inevitably came back. Inevitable. That's just who they are. They're inevitable. And I would expect that as softball, and heck, maybe get into the championship game. One of those. Yeah, because I don't want, like, sports are so funny. You can have, we can watch Shea Gilders-Alexander go off for 40 one night. And then a couple nights before that, he can score 14.
It's weird.
And just be absolutely just nothing. Be a
It's the way
dud
it
of a
is.
game and just be like, on to the next one. So because sports are so inconsistent like that, because softball does play like a best of 3 series whenever they do play the most amount of games, so they play all at once, I'm not going to say, hey, championship or bust. And I think they might play best of 5 for championship game. But I'd say championship game would be incredible.
That'd be
Can you
cool.
imagine all Oklahoma matches?
That'd be
Championship
awesome.
Game. Anyways, what are your expectations, softball? Is the kind of matchup?
Yeah.
Similar?
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Get back to the College World Series, win some games, hopefully get to a final again. It's always going to be tough to win one of those things. There's such good teams, especially when you got OU in there. But yeah, get back to the College World Series, set those expectations every single year. We'll get back.
Yeah. All right. Well, asking it.
Cap.
OSU baseball, and don't worry, we're getting to wrestling. Wrestling's the last one. We could talk about tennis and equestrian too. I just don't
Sure.
know enough about those sports.
Okay.
I don't want to deep dive into tennis.
Of course.
Equestrian. Did you want to deep dive into tennis and equestrian?
Honestly, I don't
Okay, cool.
have too much knowledge in those. I'm not going to lie.
We're going to try to get every sport their due fame, their due. But this is more of like, of all the sports across OSU, wrestling is you got to start with football and with wrestling, or start with wrestling and with football. So that's
Yeah.
how we're doing this
Yeah.
tonight. Baseball wise, I hosted a regional. But
Yeah.
as I started out the podcast with, there's not a Big 12 team hosting a regional.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the Big 12 champion is not hosting a regional. We were up 6-0 in the tournament, and then ended up losing.
Losing that game.
Kind
Yeah.
of sucks. But we still made the NCAA March Madness, right? Excuse me. We still made the NCAA tournament. Next 5 years, how many times do we need to get to Omaha?
Yeah.
For you to go, yeah, we're in a good spot.
That's another thing, man. I think it's tough to get there every single year because there's just such good programs out there and things are changing all the time. But again, I think OSU's solidified themselves as one of the better overall Big 12 teams out there. And, you know, this year is a down year. You're going to have that overall compared to other years. Like, this just wasn't as strong of a season for Oklahoma State baseball. But in the next 5 years, I expect them, Omaha, I'd say at least, let's get there at least twice in the next 5 years. I think if they can do that, they have, again, the history. Holiday's been there for years. He knows what it takes to get a team to Omaha. I say twice. Get there 2 times in the next 5 years. That would make this program even better than what it is and elevate it even higher too. So that would be what my hope is. Twice.
What besides making Omaha anything above, winning this series in Omaha, is that gravy?
Oh yeah. I mean, if winning in Omaha, anything you can do in Omaha, in my opinion, is just icing on the cake. I mean, of course you want to win it all, but winning a series or just getting, deeper into in that tournament in Omaha at the NCAA tournament, yeah, that's a must. Like you can just have so much excitement for a program like that or a team when you're watching and you win a series. Like, we're on to the next round. It's amazing. So that'd be pretty cool.
I think for me, 2 years is 2 more than we made in the past 5 years. In the past 5 years, we've won the Big 12 twice.
Yep.
That does seem like it, but it doesn't seem outside of the scope of what's possible. It definitely seems possible. Seems a little bit on the high, just because we've hosted super regionals, regionals and super regionals, and not made Omaha repeatedly. It seems, and even at O'Brate.
Like I said, yep, hard to do, but they've had those opportunities to get there, and they're hosting.
But I gotta agree though. Like, there's nothing in the team now or with the program that makes me go, oh, you know what? Like, that's not going great. For whatever reason, a lot of people were calling for Rob Walton to get fired or let go because I think pitching wasn't going great.
Yeah.
The team's really expected to do real well, and it doesn't work out. You know, you kind of like, well, we love Josh Holiday. Well, let's get rid of somebody else's name we know. I think that's what it comes down to. It's like, all right, well, no one's talking about the hitting coach. Sure. I don't know his name off the top of my head, but I know Rob Walton's name real well. Sure. That's all over media.
It's all over
social media. He's retiring. I don't think that's great, honestly. I think we'd rather have a guy who's a mainstay of the program around because at the end of the day, if Gundy thinks Casey Dunn sucks, then he fires him, lets him go, and then we have a new guy come in and does great, awesome. If Gundy thinks that Casey Dunn is amazing, best play caller ever, and our offense looks like, looks horrible, you're wondering what's going on. Scratch your head. And sure. Josh Holiday thought Rob Walton was going to done, and I don't ever disagree. I think Rob Walton was going to done the whole time. Best of luck in retirement. I have nothing bad at all to say in regards to like how our pitching was doing year over year and stuff. No one's doing great. Baseball's so inconsistent. You probably could tell me that better than I could tell anyone else. I would expect us to get to Omaha in 1 to 2 years, the next 5. I give myself just a little bit of leeway there just because I do want to be right at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Over like getting a little misty eyed and like what's possible.
Be a little bold, yeah.
But I also think that the more times that O'Brate Stadium is shown on TV and that recruits are know about O'Brate, the more the NIL portal NIL and transfer portal kind of figure itself out, work itself out. Baseball will be the one where it's like, Oklahoma State's the best of any team in the NCAA.
Absolutely.
And I think that's either close to possible or 100% there. Mm-hmm. Best in the Big 12 for sure. I've seen U of A. I've seen U of Arizona, not University of Alabama or University of Arkansas, but seen Arizona's baseball stadium. It's nothing comparatively. I've seen OU's. It's nothing comparatively. Seen several universities. O'Brate reigned supreme. O'Brate would be a very, very nice minor league ball.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. It's amazing.
And that it's recruiting to alone, I think will be amazing for recruits. Also, the fact that Holiday's gotten so many guys to the major league level, like Carson Bench, round 1 pick last year's draft, the New York Mets, incredible. So,
yep.
And after O'Brate, it's kind of gravy. I would say that we got to be in the Big 12 championship game next year, if not winning the Big 12 and we got to win the Big 12 2 out of the next 5.
I agree.
And then get to Omaha 1 of the 2. Yeah, it's kind of how it works in my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
Circle back to football for one moment here, just before we get to wrestling. College football playoff? Do we win a game? How many times do we get a college football playoff? Because now that's the whole other, like we're talking March Madness tournaments and stuff for, basketball. It's because the Big 12 tournament in basketball is such a crapshoot.
Oh, absolutely.
But college football playoffs are a little bit, more, or I should say less of a crapshoot, more of a realistic possibility where you could play in on it. We'll go, we got a good enough team.
Yeah. I mean, so you're asking me like what I expect.
How many if you win the Big 12, you're going to the college football playoffs. That's just right.
So in the next 5 years, how many college football playoff championship game, or how many college football playoff
how many
games?
Times does Oklahoma State make the college playoffs? Because if we're saying 2 to 3 of the next 5 years, we make the championship game. Making the championship game, I think even with a 16-team conference, it should not be a hot take. Big 12 still might only get one team then.
Yeah.
I would with 16 teams. I mean, that's just more times that an ACC team can make it in. Because they had 2 last year. Big 12 won.
Sure,
it's an extra time that a group of 5 team. That's extra time that a random pack, whatever they end up being, team to make it in. Because we also know the pack names. That's going to hold some notoriety for a little bit until they had San Marcos. But I mean that's pack. By the way, the pack has to add a team. Has to stay alive. So, anyways, they cannot survive currently with the amount of teams they've disbanded. So, anyways,
I would say, if I'm expecting them to get back to the Big 12 championship 2 out of the next, or 2 to 3 times the next 5 years, then I mean, I would hope if we're that good of a team and we win the Big 12 championship, that we have a good enough team to win at least a playoff game. So it'll be interesting to see where this team stands in the next 5 years, but I'll say, let's say we win the Big 12 2 times in the next 5 years. So we're guaranteed a spot in the football playoffs. I would love to see us team win. I don't know how hard it is to do it, but 2 games. Let's win 2 in the college football playoff. That would be my prediction, is we can get back to our ways, build a good program or build a good team in our program again, and win a college football playoff game or 2. So that would be my expectations for something in the next 5 years.
I totally agree. I know it's going to sound weird coming off of a 3-9 season, winless in conference, as a team that was a reigning Big 12 championship game runner-up, so to say nicely. But I do agree. I think that the playoffs are possible. With 16 teams, it should be a no-brainer. But if we're mapping it out here real quick, 16 teams means if 4 teams are from ACC and Big 12 combined, all right, probably. Sure. I would say that might be what it'll average out. I think 1 year could be 3 ACC to Big 12 or 3 Big 12 to ACC, whatever. And the next year it's just 1 and 1, or, a total of 3 or whatever comparatively between both. But it's just more teams to the Big 10 and SEC. That's all. I mean, that's where, because this is just moving into a money-making scheme. This is not,
it really is.
This is not moving into competitive advantage. One of the things I'd say that I think in 30 years you and I might be talking about still is cultural playoffs bungled the whole deal. Like it could have been 6 teams with 2 first-round byes and call it a day, and everyone been like, works great. 1 each. Hey, you have a group of 5 team. You have the 4, Power 4 champions. And yeah, you wouldn't have Ohio State last year. Or maybe they're the 6th team. Maybe that's it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, what about the 7th? Well, you know what? Win your conference. Like the year that TCU and Baylor split it, one of them should have gone no matter what. Should not have been neither.
Yeah.
The year that Oklahoma State wins Big 12 championship, well, 2 SEC teams played against each other, famously, as every Oklahoma State fan knows. So that'd be my thing.
I've got a question for you. And this is, no elaboration here, just off the top of your head. How would you answer this? Is 16 teams too much for a college football playoff? Yes or no?
Yes.
Agreed.
It's just too many.
Too many.
March Madness is great because basketball, it's 1 game and that's it. But also it's basketball. Like I said earlier, you can have one incredible night. Yeah. That's the joy. That's the fun of it. And the fun of football is in a random bowl game, Boise State beats OU. And I say random because it was
sure.
But can you imagine if that had been the national championship game? People
I know.
Would have been like, why we're just giving everyone a chance to get this, like Boise State has 2 random games go off. Oh my God, can't breathe.
And I think that's the problem with the football playoffs is comparing that to basketball. There's just so much of a talent gap. So basketball, I feel like you can match up well on any given night. Like it just all depends on the matchup, but it really can even out more than football can, because football, look at a guy in the SEC, compare that to a team like SMU or Boise State. I mean, of course, I want to see those teams have an opportunity to do something on a big stage. Like, sure, give us Boise State versus Texas in a football playoff game. That's fine. But like, if you look at in the grand scheme of things, the talent gap is just still far and away between those 2 teams. Like, look at Penn State, Boise State this year. They played and Penn State just wrecked them. They just went down. I think it was Penn State and SMU, excuse me. Boise played, and maybe it was Penn State. I think it was the 2nd round game. Penn State got Boise is what it was. And that's what I was trying to remember. So yeah, I like it. I like that they're giving these teams opportunities. I do. But I just think there's way too much of a talent gap between some of these teams. And it's like, I don't know. It's starting to worry me a little bit. Is like, are we just going to get all 1st round games blowouts for the most part? I mean, look at some of these scores, Calvin. I know Indiana, Notre Dame was a blowout. Notre Dame crushed Indiana. Penn State crushed SMU in the 1st round. Texas, I think they crushed Clemson in the 1st round. And then Ohio State crushed Tennessee. So like, you didn't get really any competitive 1st round games. Is that what we're going to get all of these years? And that was the 1st year. So we truly don't know. We can only take 1 year. But it does worry me a little bit. It does.
Well, what I would say is that, all right, so you're looking at cultural playoffs from last year, 2024, 1 season ends, where the conference winners still have the 1st round byes. That's being done away with, I understand. Or if you didn't win your conference, you still get the host, whatever. Anyway, so you've got Georgia, you've got Oregon, you've got Arizona State, and then you've got, it was Penn State, excuse me, right?
Yep.
So in my mind here, Penn State and Oregon are the only two teams who play each other, in the Big Ten championship.
Yeah.
So why is Ohio State in? Like,
No, you're right.
I understand Ohio State won the whole thing, but you didn't even play in the championship game because the conference is so big. Why do you deserve a shot to win it all? Would also say the same thing about, hey, I mean, Texas, Georgia was the SEC championship game, right? So then what's Tennessee doing here? Like, why do we have Notre Dame? Honestly, whatever. I can't tell you Notre Dame doesn't exist. That shouldn't be there because they made it all the way and they're not a, but also like they're a 7th seed. They were not undefeated. They didn't have one loss. It's just such a bizarre thing to me that we're talking about how that, I understand the two teams playing the title game in my theory here should not have been there.
Yeah.
But what did they do to deserve to be there?
Right.
Like what? Ohio State, their paper test looked great, but did they lose to Michigan to not make it to the Big Ten championship game? Yeah, they lost to Michigan on their home field. Like what? You got to win that game. I'm sorry. You just, any Big 12 fans like, well, if Oklahoma State had lost to OU on the, whatever, and Oklahoma State only had, that was the one loss for Oklahoma State, and they weren't going to the Big 12 championship game,
I can't.
They wouldn't make it. It'd be, eye test. Oh, they don't look great. They didn't make it. Oh, look how they got housed. They couldn't do anything against this team that doesn't look great in Michigan. Like, but again, they made it and they won the whole thing. So I guess I should shut up.
Here's my thing, Calvin. You're not wrong. And people will say that. They're going to say, shut up. Ohio State won it all. You have nothing else to say. I disagree. I've been saying this for years, and it's one of my biggest pet peeves of college football that they need to fix. They need to do something to fix this. You should not be penalized for playing in your conference championship game and losing, because it's happened a lot over these years. Look at Ohio State. Yes, they won it all last year. We all know it. They were a great team. Okay, we get it. We know it. But they did not play in the conference championship game. They didn't have to play the Big Ten championship. They got, it was almost better that they didn't play because they got the extra rest and they were well rested and ready to go. They didn't have to play that extra game and risk a loss. What if they would have lost that game? Were they out of the tournament then because of that? Like, it's almost like it's bad in a way. They say, oh, get your conference championship game because if you win it, you're in. Like, it's almost bad in a way, because what if you have an opportunity to miss the tournament because you lost a Big 12 championship game or something stupid? Like, there's just some real flaws to that. And I'll go back, Oklahoma State. Look at that 1 year they lost, and it's like you're going to take one loss away from them just because they weren't playing in a conference championship game that year or whatever it was. And then you've got a team like in the SEC who doesn't even play in that SEC championship game or doesn't play in the Big Ten championship game, and they get rewarded into the tournament because they were good enough all year and they have the brand name, blah, 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 whatever. So yeah, I get really tired of that stuff, and it really does bother me.
I also said this. If you just, the top 16 teams last year in college football, it ranks out now that if you just did top 16, you'd only be adding in ACC and SEC teams. If you just add in, 13 is Miami, 14 is Ole Miss, 15 South Carolina, and 16 is Clemson. So you're only adding in. Now Clemson made it. They're on this list here, but there is, Alabama would also be in, they're the first team out of the college football playoffs. So cool. We get to add in these other teams. Like, you're telling me you're telling me a team that has a bad quarterback at the helm in Alabama. He didn't get drafted in the first round, didn't get drafted in the second round, deserves a shot. Now I get it, they're Alabama, but name recognition alone should not get you into the college football playoffs. Conference power in your name recognition should not. It should be something about your resume. You're telling me here that an Alabama team that, is 11th in the country, but is ranked behind SMU, is ranked behind Boise State, would now make it? Like, I know I'm kind of saying both ways because I'm saying Boise State, but I have an issue with Indiana making it. Indiana had one loss, so I guess they're okay, but I guess the seeding, it's such a weird deal because there's so many teams in each conference.
And I know it is, you start to kind of like pick at things and you're like, well, you could say that for this team and for that team and for this team. I will give the committee credit. Alabama should have been left out, and they were. good. They should have never made it. There should have never been a conversation, and there was a lot of debate leading up to that time. I also agree, though. Like Indiana, I in my opinion, the Big Ten was down this year. And there was 3 good teams, in my opinion. It was Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State. Like outside of that, look at the bottom tier. Look at the bottom of that conference. There is nothing from the middle to the bottom of that conference of the Big Ten last year that was anything special. And like, you just rack up wins. You racked up, if you were a good team, Indiana was a good team. They weren't a great team. Indiana was a good team who benefited from a really soft schedule. And what did they do? I think they lost. I think they got crushed to Ohio State in one of those games. But I don't know. I just think, in my opinion, the Big Ten gets weighed down a lot or gets built up a lot because of the bottom teams in that conference. Like they can just rack up wins like nothing. So yeah, there's things that I think just need to be changed. There's never going to be a perfect thing. There's always going to be conversations. There's always going to be arguments and disagreements. At the end of the day, I just hope the committee always does it fair and right and doesn't just put a team in because, they're Alabama or, they're Ohio State. Like that should never be the case.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well,
we had a rant there. There's our podcast rant of the night. We'll call it that.
Yeah. I think we're both annoyed with how the College playoffs have gone. So I think for so many years we wanted it to be a thing.
Yeah.
Now it comes, and of course it wasn't the way we wanted it to be.
Yeah.
It just so matter of fact, like Mark Emmett, former NCAA director who, having fun in Overland Park, Kansas. I'm sure that's what that headquarters are. Good for them. But I mean, this is not it, period. So anyways, wrestling.
Yep.
End out the podcast. I was teasing it for a while.
Do it.
We got
podcast
to, yeah.
Wrestling. There we go.
We are going to try to get better at the wrestling stuff here. I mean, definitely.
Hand up.
Oklahoma State.
Don't know as much about wrestling, but I want to try to definitely know more about it and everything. Yeah.
We'll have a fun quiz later on this summer here about wrestling stuff and see who knows more. But I used to do all the music for wrestling.
Yes, you did.
Was a lot of fun here and there, working with Al for a little bit when I was in college. But the stuff I know about wrestling is like, hey man, we're really good in the Big 12. Like we should be winning the Big 12 championship the next. I'd say the next 4 out of 5 years. The only reason I'm not saying 5, look, great things happen.
Never know.
We have an incredible wrestling moment from this year, White Hendrickson. But gosh, David Taylor, we are the program, with David Taylor at the helm. We are also the program where you can only go to a couple schools in the nation in wrestling and have a ton of support, a ton of alumni, fan, athletic support. Oklahoma State's one of the few schools. I mean, there's Iowa, of course, there's Penn State. There's Iowa State a little bit here and there every so often. That makes a little bit of noise. There's also the Cornells of the world that are, around and stuff. Of course, there's Air Force. Of course, there's, Cal State Bakersfield with AJ Ferrari this year, which I just mentioned that because I know nobody who went to Cal State Bakersfield for his master's. But, and that's how I remember the AJ Ferrari with it. But, I'd ask you, like, is it too big to go national championship in the next 5 years?
No. I don't think
I just think anything's possible at this point.
Yeah.
David Taylor's getting all the recruits. He's having all the guys come in to train in Stillwater. I mean, all of this Cowboy program, Cowboy Pride, it seems like this guy didn't skip a beat after John Smith retires. It's like, all right, well, maybe we'll have a down year. And then all of a sudden, the year's pretty good, better than expected, and only getting better. Yeah. Like all the recruits are coming. David Taylor's out there rocking every single sweet piece of OSU Nike gear I've ever seen in my life. Every time the guy's on, he got a national spotlight in the Thunder game. I wonder if many people know that he was, they're good. If not many people know, he's actually like really advertised on the Thunder game outside of Oklahoma State and Thunder fans, of course. Sure. We all know. But anyways, I've seen national championship or bust and kind of making it every single year to be top 3 in the country just because Iowa and Penn State are that good. No, I'm not. I mean, they are that good.
They're really good.
But I'd say top 2 in the country every single year for the next 5 years is not outlandish, and winning it once the next 5 is not outlandish either.
No, when you're that good of a program and you know what you have, that you have to set your expectations like that. You have to, as a fan, want your team to win like that every year. I'm a Cardinals fan. I expect us to win a lot of games every single year, make the playoffs every single year. That's what it is. I know I'm going off to a different sport and a different profession here, But I mean, that's just the way it is. When you're as good of a program like Oklahoma State in wrestling, you have to expect that. And that's only that puts more pressure on them as a program to want to win, in my opinion.
No, I totally agree. I think there is a lot of Oklahoma State could be good at this sport, could be good at this sport or whatever, but wrestling's one we just should be. Bottom line, 100%. No matter what, should be single.
Yep.
34 national
what Smith did there to elevate that program and make them what they are. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, we are your wrestling spot if you're a football and basketball fan and you want to know more about wrestling. Because we're gonna, we're gonna bring on some guys. We're gonna do whatever, but we're the big guys who are like got into wrestling because of Oklahoma State. I mean, that is that I wouldn't, if you told me if I had to go to Oklahoma State, I'd care about wrestling.
I wouldn't know anything about it.
I would literally, I remember you, Jake, and I round trip Stillwater to Norman for a Bedlam wrestling duel. And then we were back down to Norman the next morning to work college game or to work some ABC crew stuff, which thanks, shout out to OU for paying for us to, thanks. I was able to hold that sound desk real well. All three of us were. Where's Sam? But anyways, an inside joke for those who don't know. But yeah, wrestling, everything seems to be on the up and up. We're all expecting good things of each program and expecting improvements from each program. Not one sport are we going, actually, I don't know what's going to go well. And that's always a great sign. Yeah. Chad Weiberg at the helm for Oklahoma State. Every hire he's had so far has been good. Yeah. I am not willing to consistently say, hey, Steve Lutz, 1 year in, best coach I've ever seen. Yeah. Because we gotta give more time to, kind of marinate here. Well, let's figure out what his sauce is like and taste. But I'm saying JC Horry, aged like fine wine. Yeah. Like that hire has only gone great and even getting better. Yep. Josh Holiday, this year is not the year to talk about doing great. But are you telling me if this team isn't like going to Omaha, or hosting a super regional by the time you're listening to this? Yeah. Pretty great year. If you're hosting super regional out after all this. Yep. Especially with all of the program interruptions, all the stuff. And I go through some sport like this. Football will be better. It will not be at 3 wins. It'll be better. It'll be better. Even with quarterbacks like this, even with running backs like this, even with talent groups like this. All of it just is unknown. That's the scary part. That's the scary part. No one wants to go, expect Oklahoma State to get 8 wins because no one's seen the product. Sure. It's all new. And every year like that, seems like Gundy overperforms when he should underperform. Yeah. So, Alexi, thanks so much for joining here on the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. Thank you. If not already, follow at. We can go off my Twitter handle that I'm mostly on. That's at Deep Pockets Bet. I try to put more sports content on there, talk a little bit about sports betting. Been a little low profile lately just because I've been busy with my schedule. But follow me on there if you want to know more about sports betting and some of my picks that I like for a certain sport. And if you're not already, please follow at the CGA Tour. If you're listening to this, or watch this on YouTube, you've been seeing the entire bottom line the whole night. We're on Blue Sky, we're on Threads, we're also on Instagram here. We are also on every single streaming platform you listen to podcasts on as well. So follow at the CGA Tour on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, of course, here. Help us get to 500 subscribers before too long. Maybe we're already even there. So, Alexi, thanks so much for joining here. Thanks, Calvin. And great time. You guys again here soon with important update from both of us here before too long. So, thanks so much.